Hello, Paulo in Portugal. Sorry that you're having issues with your transmission, and I'm going to do my best to explain what I think happened to it. And I'm sorry it took me so long to get back to you, but had to gather up some parts and get some time. Before we start on the problem, one thing I was going to mention is this is the counter shaft, and make sure that the counter shaft gears are not loose on the shaft, and if they are, it's because this key, which goes underneath here, is worn out, and you can see it depicted here in the blow apart diagram. Here's the key, and you take this snap ring off, and you need a press to remove these gears, and then you press them back on with a new key. So whenever you get in your transmission, wiggle these gears back and forth on the counter shaft. And here's what the key looks like. You can see we have lots of them because we always replace them. The issue that you're having has to do with this key right here, as you well know, and depicted on the picture right. Here it is, right here, 53, right here, and it dovetails with this part right here, 54, and dovetails with, goes inside this shift synchro cluster I call it, synchro body. Anyway, this is for the first and second because it has a gear on there for reverse, and then of course third and fourth. And your problem, you said, was shifting from second into first, and that is going to be with this synchro body right here. And you can see this one's kind of chewed up because the reverse is not synchronized. Anyway, and as I recall, you sent me a picture of yours that had been taken apart, and you said you rebuilt it. Now, we don't rebuild these. We just install new ones. And this is what a new one looks like. And there's a big difference between the new ones and the old used ones. You'll notice that these dogs right here, these square dogs, do not flop around. You'll notice on this one here, they move quite a bit. See it moving back and forth right here? See it hopping up and down? And another thing that wears, of course, I saw your outer perimeter of this inner piece right here. You showed me how yours was worn out, but also the corresponding ring inside here wears out. So these two wear against each other, and it gets really sloppy, and the springs wear and the balls wear. So that's why we don't rebuild these things. We just install new ones. And the reason for that is because this is what's doing your shifting. You were asking about the synchronizer rings. Well, the purpose of the synchronizer rings is this is a gear, and this is the cone on the gear, and the synchronizer ring has got ridges inside it, and of course it's made out of bronze, so it's softer than the steel. And what happens is when you shift, these grooves right here slowly go on to, relatively speaking, slowly go on to the cone and grab the cone. And what the grabbing is doing is allowing the different gears that are traveling at different speeds to come in, to synchronize into going the same speed. If you can imagine shifting from one gear to the next, the gears inside the transmission are not moving all at the same speed, because if they did, you'd have one speed only in the transmission. And so as you shift, you are forcing this synchro body here to move back and forth, and to move these synchronizer rings onto the cone, and make these dissimilar rotational speed parts rotate at the same speed. And that's what you're doing. You're slowing down one gear or allowing a slower gear to grab onto a faster gear, and that's how the shifting takes place. The synchronizer rings are not part of the shifting as much as they are just part of allowing these various gears to come to the same rotational speed. What's doing the shifting is this guy right here, and if this is worn out, then your shifting is not going to be very good. It's going to be difficult to shift because this thing is worn out, and it's sloppy and doesn't allow these synchronizers to do their job. And so if you shift real fast, you can shift faster than this part will function as it moves back and forth on the main shaft, and you can shift faster than it's able to do its job. And that's when you start crunching gears, because one gear has not come in become the same rotational speed as the gear next to it that you're shifting into, and that's where you start crunching gears. Now then, the problem with your key, this magical key right here, this thing is a big problem for a lot of people. This has caused quite a bit of problems, and you're not the only person that has issues with this key. All right, so you can see we've got all these raised edges right here, and this key goes in here and completes the edges. It completes the number of raised portions, and it obviously, as you well know, this goes in here and dovetails with this ring right here. And the other part of it, of course, is inside this synchronizer body right here. And what happens is that if you allow this stack of parts to become just a very, very slightly out of order, or rather, just if they move just a little bit, it allows this key to get out of position, and next thing you know, this key is getting bumped back and forth. And as you well know, when you looked at your key, the end here was beaten up. And what happens is that when you're assembling the transmission, you have to keep all of this. See, even now it's difficult. Okay, so you have to keep all that in compression so that this ring and key don't move. And so what we do is, when we have everything stacked up here, we've got just a piece of pipe that we made that goes on here, and then we screw the nut on here, and that keeps everything in compression and does not allow anything to move. And then this is used to install the main shaft into the transmission, and then we turn the transmission up so that these parts cannot fall either sideways or down like this. Before we take this off, we make sure that these parts here cannot move under any circumstances, and get out of position. So we always assemble the transmissions with the back end up, and you have your stack of parts that go back here: the bearing and the speedometer, bronze speedometer, helical gear, and then you've got your output flange, and then this nut goes on here. And if you people, when they will replace the rear seal on the transmission and don't realize that this is sideways, and just pulling on it, tugging on it, can get these parts out of alignment, and this shifts, and when they put it back together, the transmission binds up, just because they were trying to replace the rear seal and didn't realize that you had to be very careful of everything not moving in here. So that's what I think has happened to you. You've got worn out part. You need a new part here. This is slipped on you again, or it might be damaged, and I think that's the biggest issue you've got right now. You've got the new synchronizer rings, and that should be okay there. I believe the whole issue is right here, and you will find that when these, this is for first and second, and when this wears out, it's hard to shift into first, because first is the gear that's used the most, obviously, when you're starting off, and so after a while, it's very difficult for you to shift into first gear. And so what I will tell people to do is to shift into second. Even if you don't shift completely into second, what you're doing is using going into second is not as worn out as going into first. So what you do is you shift into second, and that helps slow down the gears, and then it allows you to shift into first more conveniently and with no grinding gears and with no effort. When this is for the third and fourth gear, there's a separate unit that does not have any teeth on it, and that's for third and fourth. And in fact, that's this one right here. And so when this one gets worn out, what you'll find is that you're in fourth gear, you're on the highway, and then you let off on the throttle to exit the highway, and you'll pop out of fourth gear. And that's when this is worn out. That synchronizer body is worn out. So that's how the synchronizer bodies wear out and demonstrate that they are worn. Hard to shift into first, and fourth gear pops out. So I'm sorry, but you're going to have to go back in your transmission, buy a new one of these. Here's the part number, so that you can order it from Mercedes, and install a new one. Assemble the transmission with the back end of it pointing straight up. And then you have to make sure you got all your shims in place so that you got the proper shimming, and you've seen that on my videos. So I think you can do it. Unfortunately, you're probably going to have to go back in your transmission. Let me know if you have any questions, and good luck.